Well, the heart is the way that you get there.
Faith, democracy. What word do we put in the middle?
We are here to talk about love and justice and what that requires of us in this moment.
We really are Christians who are pro-democracy.
No, I will not allow you to take this faith and say this is what it demands, because for me, my Christian faith demands something else entirely.
This is the third of these Faith and Democracy Tour meetings that the four of us have had. We had two in October, one at Dayspring United Methodist Church in Tempe, Arizona, one at First Baptist Church in Greensboro, North Carolina, and then here at St. Luke's Episcopal.
I think this is our moment for us to consider who it is that we're going to be. Are we going to be bystanders? Are we going to be resistors?
We want to see people have their rights, and we want to see justice enacted. But we're about to find out, some of you for the first time, what that really requires, what it really costs.
Everybody was asking, how could white Christians, in particular, white Christians, white evangelicals specifically, support somebody who was so clearly going against all of their values? And I knew that that was the wrong way to frame it, that we didn't accurately understand what some of those core values actually were, right, to our detriment. And so I brought out the old research and I wrote this essay and published it online, time to Trump's inauguration, and it went viral. But just a couple of days after that essay published, I got an email from a scholar that I'd never heard of before. He introduced himself as a scholar of Nazi propaganda. He asked me if I was aware how similar the quotes that I had pulled and quoted in that essay on evangelical masculinity and militarism, how strikingly similar those quotes were, almost word for word, with the propaganda of the German Christian movement, the church under Nazism. He said, "Did you know?" And I wrote him back that day and said, "Yes, I know."
We've been trying to set a table and trying to hold some space for a different kind of conversation about faith and democracy than the dominant one we have often heard. So it is one, I've been thinking about this, that is about, for example, pluralism instead of Christian nationalism. Right? One that is about equality rather than hierarchy. One that's about truth rather than propaganda, and one that is about love and compassion rather than power and fear.
It's so interesting to me that white people will leap over an ocean and cross continents to find examples of Christians who stood up against injustice, Christians who stood up against a government that was mixing politics and nationalism in its toxic brew. And I'm just like, yo! Black Christians been doing this a minute. And maybe, you don't have to look all the way over there, not that we can't learn from that, but there's something in me that thinks that until white Christians are willing to listen to, learn from, and follow the lead of the Black church, then we still haven't dealt with fundamental issues that have undermined democracy ever since the founding of this nation. Because as I wrote in one of my Substack posts, for white Christians to truly look to the Black church for leadership, they're going to have to confront why there's a Black church in the first place.
I always find hope around clarity, that if you can be honest about something, if you understand the story that you're living in, if you're not lying about what's going on in the world around you, that there is a kind of hope that can be found.
Be witnesses. State what you believe is true. Don't tiptoe around it.
There are a lot of times in American history where people had little or no faith in democracy, or that faith had to serve as a corrective to democracy or a challenge to democracy. It was a rare time, actually, in American history where faith and democracy sort of walked an easy path together.
History can show us how things came to be to help us understand where we are now, and to help us understand how the world works. Who did what? Who made what choices? Who spoke out? Who stayed quiet? Right? That's what history shows us, so we can understand how we got here. Because if we aren't happy with where we are, we need to know what brought us here so we can know what to do differently.
I feel like I've been trying to swim toward the surface to get like a breath, because it is so thick and it is so new for us. Those of us who are like identify as white, like let's think about this. Like we had democracy for white people in this country. That's the version of democracy that most white Christian churches baptized and supported. So like this is a new thing. We don't have like centuries of good white Christian theology to get us here. Like this is something we are going to have to build.
MLK, his very last speech, I've been to the mountaintop. He said, we've got some difficult days ahead, but that doesn't matter to me now because I've been to the mountaintop. And I may not get there with you, but we as a people will get to the mountaintop. And one of my favorite historical heroes, Fannie Lou Hamer, born and raised in the Mississippi Delta, said, I guess if I'd had any sense, I'd realize they could kill me. But it seemed to me like they've been trying to do that a little bit every day for as long as I can remember. When you follow the journey of justice, you become more like Jesus. You may not win, but you become more empathetic. You may not win, but you become kinder. You may not win, but you develop perseverance. You may not win, but you do have hope. Not a superficial, shallow hope. A hope like Jesus that says, not my will, but your will be done.